It's Daybreak on Arise News. Time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. Let's see what this day has for us today. This day, Obasanjo, Nigeria at crossroads, needs a leader with the right character. The former president says he's paid his dues. Let's see what more it's saying. CBN development finance interventions have boosted food security. Federal government abolishes face mask at airports, relaxes COVID-19 rules. Find out more on page 6. Mormon says subsidy has diminished Nigerian institutions' capacity to deal with energy crisis. Police kill 3, arrest 2 as bandits attack INEC office in Imo State. Let's move on now to the Punch newspaper. What does the Punch newspaper have for us? Newspaper now. Okay, we'll move on to the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun says Constitution review, National Assembly leaders beg governors, explain why ongoing amendment is important. Oil marketers open up on prolonged fuel scarcity. Uzodinma in Imo State fingers politicians for INEC office attack. Other papers now, this is the leadership. Insecurity may disenfranchise 11 million voters in the southeast. That's what the leadership is leading with. And federal government cancels COVID-19 test for all travelers. I will end hunger unemployment as president. That's according to Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. Tinubu Shatima in Kaduna ahead of a Northwest campaign rally. And the federal government declares Reuters' abortion report against the military fake. Okay, moving on now to other papers, the international papers. What's it saying? The Financial Times says Microsoft agrees £1.5 billion deal for 4% stake in London Stock Exchange. Best shot, China urged to update its jabs. The I paper, NHS will block book taxis during paramedic strike action. The coldest day in the UK for 12 years has taken place, and thousands of operations axed as strike talks fail. That's in the Independent. And moving on now to the Daily Telegraph. Taxis may be used as ambulances in strikes, and Sunak set for deal to speed up return of Albanian migrants. The UK is going through it right now. For the press preview, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello. Good morning, Emmanuel. Good to see you. Starting with this day, and the former President Olusegun Obasanjo has a thing or two to say about the election next year. He says the country is at crossroads and it needs a leader with the right character. There's so many presidential candidates, Emmanuel, and each one of them has said, I am the right man. I have the influence, I have the structure, I have all it takes to transform the country. A lot of people would say that the Obasanjo administration were probably the best Nigeria has seen since its inception of democracy. Who is this? Who could this leader be, Emmanuel? A leader with right character?
Well, that's the $1 million question there, Kenneth. And but in audience that day, where he was speaking, where Obasanjo was speaking, former President Obasanjo was Peter Obi, who was sitting there, and of course the Afenifere leader too, whom President Obasanjo, quite remarkably, so to say, President Obasanjo referring to him as his elder brother. It's not every day you hear President Obasanjo calling anybody his senior brother, but there he was calling the Afenifere leader. So, but yes, he's talking about a leader with character, and some people will say yes, character is good, but that you also need competencies. You need somebody who is competent. So he's saying, just like you said, Kenneth, a lot of people out there wanting to be president, saying, look, beyond just the manifestos, beyond what they have to say, and all of them are, quite frankly, are saying beautiful things, whether it's on security, on the economy, or on the war on terror. Everyone seems to have what looks like some kind of good idea and everything. But the President Obasanjo said that now we have to move it to the next level, which is a character, and he's using himself as an example. You know, he's always sitting on that moral high stool, so to say, where he talks about his own records too. He says he shed blood for this country. He has gone to prison before, and he has suffered all sorts of things. And so he's got bragging rights, or he's got rights to even decide who he think has the character to run this country. So that's Obasanjo, the pristine, you know, a classical Obasanjo, always looking at, you know, he's the letter writer, isn't he, who has written to all the leaders after him, pointing out their errors and pointing out their mistakes. He's yet to find the right Nigerian leader, so to speak. But now he's saying that, look, it's about character. And there are people who say that, yes, while it is still about character, it's also about competencies. It's also about politics, about the numbers, about who is able to win election. It's not character contest, for instance, will not just win election. Sadly, sadly, you have to also, apart from character, you have to talk about the networking, the consensus building, the numbers, how you're able to, you know, the platforms you're going to use to win election. Of course, you can have all the character that is there, but Nigerians will be looking to see how you're able to form a broad base of supporters who are able to accept you and vote for you. It's democracy, and it's a game of numbers. So yes, we need, the country will be needing someone with character, but a lot of people will also say that we need someone that is practical, someone that is competent, someone that, you know, understands the problem and actually has the maturity or the leadership to be able to deal with them. So these are all the things, but of course, this president now saying that, well, let's zero on the issue of character.
Well, Emmanuel, looking at all the presidential candidates, there is the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who says he has transformed Lagos. There is Atiku Abubakar, who was the former vice president, and he takes all the privatization that was done during the Obasanjo administration, takes credit for it. And then there's the Kwankwaso of the NNPC, of course, who is popularly down in Kano, and then the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, who so many have said cannot win the election. As a matter of fact, the All Progressives Congress have continuously dismissed the Labour Party candidate. They don't want to debate with him because he has no structure. He has no proof that he was a leader, a governor of a state. How do you see things panning out? We've not heard of any of these candidates coming together to endorse one or the other. We have at least 90 million plus eligible voters.
Well, I don't see any one of them backing out or throwing their weight behind someone candidate, if that's what you're saying, endorsing any of the other candidates. But when, for instance, Tinubu was asked if there was anyone he could vote for other than himself, he said none, and he just you know, just said, look, he's not rooting for any of the other candidates there, and that he is more competent, and as far as he's concerned, that those other people do not have the kind of competence but you're right, they all have got something to show, and now the race is thinning down, is narrowing down to a certain number of these presidential candidates. Certainly the four that you mentioned seem to be the front runner, but even in that, there are those who have surged ahead in the race, you know, having town halls, talking to people, and, you know, with the possibility, and a lot of people are saying that it's gradually turning to be an Atiku, Tinubu kind of, back and forth. At least they are the most visible, presence out there, especially when it comes to those throwing those brickbats about the elections and the other kind of, sound bites between the two of them. Of course, the Labour Party candidate is also having this bite of it. But when you look at, I'm sure we're going to preview those stories, when you look at what is happening in the southeast, especially the attack on INEC office, with even the Sun newspaper saying that 11 million voters can be de-enfranchised from the southeast, which is supposed to naturally be the base of Obi. Of course, like you said, like you noted too, Obi doesn't actually fancy himself as coming from any of the regions or a regional candidate. He say he's broad-based, he's national in outlook, he's he wants votes from everywhere. But eventually these elections will sadly go down because they reflect some of this kind. All the candidates seem to reflect their regions, and so a lot of support will be expected from those places. But when you have the Sun newspaper, for instance, reporting the fact that 11 million voters from the Southeast could be disenfranchised, largely also because of the attack on INEC facilities there, those sit-at-homes, and what looks like a rejection of election from that region. The attack continuously on whether it's electoral workers or even INEC facilities, though Governor Uzodinma is saying that it's politically motivated, it's nothing to do with the people. Some people don't want to have elections there. It gives mixed messages, and it's problematic for all the candidates certainly, but of course particularly for the Labour Party candidate. A lot of people will say charity begins at home. If you are having all those attacks in the Southeast, especially attacks on the facilities of this election. Some people will say that that is not encouraging enough for the rest of the country. You will think that this is a time to rally around this candidate and give him the kind of push that he needs. But when you have those attacks, and those of them I say is politically motivated, it's quite troubling.
The front page of the Daily Sun: Constitution Review, National Assembly leaders bet governors. They're explaining why ongoing amendment is important. Emmanuel, is it that the lawmakers in the state do not understand the importance of change, of evolution, and of tweaking things as we get older, as nations advance?
They do. But just like the senators are saying in this report, they are saying that, look, the governors don't allow them, to make those kind of tweaking, the kind of changes that you're talking about. The dominance of the governors, and that's why in one of the stories they say that they're begging the governors, practically begging the governors, the National Assembly begging the governors to allow certain things happen in their states, because a lot of people believe that the states House of Assembly are just rubber stamp. People that were handpicked and sent there. Shouldn't be like that. They should be independent. But the other troubling one, Kenneth, is the local government autonomy issue, where the governors are not allowing those local governments to be on their own. They don't get their monies. Many of the local government chairmen are practically like errand boys sent to those places. They don't do much. They don't get those monies, and actually they don't even stay within their constituency. So that's some of the problems, and now the National Assembly is crying out that because of the crisis between the governors and, of course, those other levers of government in their states, the whole process, the constitutional review process itself, is slowed down, and that in the life of this assembly they cannot finish it. So they are appealing the governors, at least to Governor El-Rufai was in that meeting. The Senate President pointedly asked him to go plead with the other governors, his colleagues, lobby them to see that they allow for these changes. First, the autonomy of the state houses of assembly, and secondly, of course, the local government chairman or local government administration. A situation where the state's house of assembly can be separate from the executive. Right now, you have an overbearing presence of the governors, who practically control the speakers, controls the members of the house, and turn them into people that just do their will. Some try to assert their authority, but in most cases it's always the governor's game, and they take over precedence. The local government chairmen are practically not even in charge of anything because monies don't get to them directly. So those are some of the changes that will be revolutionary in nature and that can actually change the face of this country.
Emmanuel, it's 12 days to Christmas, and I want to know, do you think it will be a Merry Christmas indeed for Nigerians?
Well, it's going to come down to individual choice. But if you're looking at what is happening on the street, the shortages of fuel, and the fact that a lot of people are beginning to wonder what's going to happen to them, especially with the new Naira notes up ahead, the crisis of this transition, and the difficulties around these elections, and some of their late, the attacks lately that you will be seeing on facilities like INEC facilities, and some of the terrible stories we're hearing. With effort too, we must say that, Kenneth, the effort that by the military in some places reported today that, they are smoking out the bandits, doing some aerial attacks in Kaduna. All of that will play into whether we are going to have a Merry Christmas or not, especially with these shortages, the long queues that we'll continue to see. But of course, a lot of people will be grateful that they've seen the end of the year after all, and that with all that has happened this year, it was quite a year. They are happy, just happy that they've been able to make it to the very last days of it. But the issue of governance, the issue of leadership, and even the issue of transition is going to be weighing strongly on the minds of people as they try to have the best of Christmas.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. That's the press preview. Let's hear your views. Follow us on Twitter @AriseTV. You can tweet with the hashtag AriseDaybreak.